Hi, hello, and welcome everyone to another edition of the SBC Web Show. My name is Beau Estes. We got some big guests joining us in just a moment, but we're coming up on the Sports Business Classroom's virtual conference, and we'll have details soon. But first, we want to talk about the first responders and the people that are keeping us safe. You can tell that we are still in the grips of COVID-19, and we're working to get through this thing. So we want to thank our first responders and frontline workers. I live right by the CDC, so every day out of my neighborhood, I see doctors, nurses, health officials marching right into the front line of this thing. So we just want to thank all of them. We also want to pay special attention to another movement that's important in the news right now, Black Lives Matter. And if you don't know, on behalf of each and every one of us with Sports Business Classroom, with Hall Pass, we just want to articulate specifically and clearly, Black Lives Matter. This is something you should read about. This is something you should take seriously, think about, and reach out, do something to help folks out. That's what we're all about here at the SBC Web Show. And speaking of helping folks out, we got two guests today that can help us out. We start with Larry Kuhn. He's the head of this whole Sports Business Classroom. Larry, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, Beau. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, man. And also, Wes Wilcox, he joined us last year at Sports Business Classroom, and he's back again this year for the virtual conference. Wes also on Sirius XM and at a little place I like to call NBA TV. So he's a coworker. How you doing, Wes?
I'm good, Beau. Good to see you. Good to see you, Larry.
Yeah, we got the gang back together, the three of us from SBC 2019, looking at SBC 2020. I love it.
Yeah, Larry, that's great. The world has changed since we were together last time. The world has changed since we were first planning this. So take us through the journey. What have we gone through, and what's happening this year? What kind of a learning experience can students expect to have?
Right. So let's start with the journey of SBC from 2019 to 2020, because as you said, it is completely different. All of our plans out the window, a brand new set of plans put in place. So we start planning, as you well know, we start planning SBC in December. And in January, late January, early February, we're opening up registration. And that whole time, we're just solid, steady work, getting the program put together. What's the schedule going to be? Who are the guests going to be? What's every piece of the curriculum going to be? Getting students registered, all that. We were right in the middle of that, had great guests lined up. COVID-19 hit. And of course, the whole world just hit the pause button. We had to wait, sit and see what's going to happen. And then once it finally, it got late enough in the calendar that we said, okay, we're not going to have a restart, and a SBC in Las Vegas live just doesn't make sense anymore. What are the alternative plans? And the obvious alternative to that is we can still do it, but we have to do it virtually. Virtual conferences are nothing new. We're not inventing the concept, but we are going to take that concept and do it as its own unique thing for Sports Business Classroom. So my plan is, we're going to make a 5-day event. SBC itself is 7 days in Las Vegas. We're going to take 5 days. We're going to do a nice 8 to 5 schedule Pacific time, although we'll make video on demand so you can get it wherever you are in the world. We will take that 5 days, give you all the best curriculum, give you all the best hands-on experience we can. So we'll still do deep dives. We'll still do things like scouting. We can't take you out to a summer league game, have you sit with a scout and scout a game, but we can pull up video of games with a scout and have a scout go over with you remotely over video. There's a ton of stuff we can still do while retaining all the educational and networking value of Sports Business Classroom. We can still do networking. We can't immerse you in Summer League. There is no Summer League this year, but we can give you a lot of what we could bring you in at live SBC just in a virtual setting. You don't have to leave your couch.
That's right. It's a wonderful opportunity this year. And I remember those meetings before COVID hit. Wes, you were in it along with Dave DeFore. And, so here we are, we're tailoring this scouting and analytics program to the normal experience. And all of a sudden, you have to shift gears. You and Dave do. So tell us, what have you done to make this the best experience for students in the virtual realm?
Well, there's also a great opportunity with all of this, Beau, as we've talked about internally, and it's great to share now publicly because we've never been able to do SBC before the NBA draft. We've never been able to do SBC before free agency. This year, we get to do SBC while live NBA games are being played. The real deal that we're going to get to evaluate, and we're going to get to work and build towards the decisions that NBA executives are going to make. So a lot of what we have done in the past, we're going to do again. There's going to be the salary cap focus that Larry Kuhn, of course, will lead. There's going to be an analytics focus that Seth Partnow is going to lead. There's going to be a media element, Beau, that you're going to lead for the group. There's going to be a jobs element, and then we're going to focus with Dave DeFore, as you mentioned, in the scouting world, breaking down the individual games, the individual players, breaking down the video, how you go about building a video, because most of those who are taking part in SBC are trying to find a way to get into the NBA, and video is oftentimes the most natural path into your first NBA opportunity. So it's actually, because of what's going on, we are so cautious and respectful of all that the world's dealing with. But at the end of the day, this might actually create an opportunity, a better teaching opportunity than we've ever had before, because we're going to get to work through live, real-time case studies before it all plays out later in October.
Yeah, and these are going to be important games because it's late in the seeding games that we'll be watching this as Sports Business Classroom goes along, Larry. So it's going to be something to have these students learning. And look, let me tell you about learning. These students, before I jumped on this show right now, I was in with a student from last year's program who met up with the head of podcasts at Turner Sports. And had an opportunity, and is going to get an opportunity. So even as we're working on next year's program, we're still working with students from last year, the year before, to try to help them out. I see, Wes, you have a question now. What do you got?
No, I can't get into it right now, and I haven't even told you either of you about this. But there's another former SBC employee interviewing for a position around and in the NBA right now as we speak, because of basically what we've built out of SBC and the relationships that we've built and the education that he gained, the knowledge he gained from previous Sports Business Classroom. So, Beau, it's great to hear you're doing it. I know we're doing it on this end, and Larry's done it a million times, with a bunch of students trying to find their opportunities.
Yeah. I want to go back 1 second to something that Wes said just a couple of minutes ago, because the thing I love about this team right here is that, I approach this from the perspective of an educator, and the curriculum and the structure and the pedagogy and the strength of it and the sequence. And Beau, obviously has his great perspective as a journalist and broadcaster. Wes, you approach it from the terms of a general manager. Your first thought is, okay, how does this fit into the league and what it's doing and what a team would be doing today and every day during that program? What's a team doing right now? What are they looking at? And let's bring all that into the program. And I think that the combination of those things just makes this an unbeatable program.
Well, and we've talked a lot about what this program is going to be. Let's put up on the screen now an opportunity for students to look at what this schedule is going to be, because we're going to go through. Larry, why don't you take us through what you built here, because this is your baby.
Of course. So we are doing a lot of what we did in the regular program. Now, in the Las Vegas Sports Business Classroom, there's some things that run in parallel because students pick a major and they get some specialization in their major of choice in the later days. Here, there's just one track. So everybody is in the same program. Nobody's picking a major. Everybody gets some of everything. So what we're going to do, we're going to start out on Monday with what I think is something that's really important, right? This is a whole new world we're living in. COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, like we said at the start of the program, women in sports, everything else that's happening now. Is this the new normal? What's going to go back to normal? What's never going back to normal? Students, when you're coming in and you're looking to get into the league, what do you have to know? How do you have to change your approach? How do you have to deal with things today in the new environment? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to get into some of the regular curriculum that we have. So Professor Jeff Fellinger from USC does an amazing job of preparing students for looking for jobs. You would be surprised at how many people can't really write a resume the right way, know how to interview well. And I have interviewed 1,000 people. I get this. It's tough to do. It's a specific skill set, especially when you're looking at sports, especially in such a competitive environment. Jeff Fellenser shows you how to network, how to interview, how to do the resume, how to do an elevator pitch. The students just love everything that he gives to them. He also works with people individually on their own specific things. Then we're going to start to get into some of the meat of the program, the CBA lectures. I do the CBA 101 and 201 intended for more general audiences. I take people through like player career contract life cycles, showing how that hits the CBA. Then in 201, I go through a salary cap year, start to finish. We're looking at it from a team's perspective. What happens at every point in time? And hey, we're getting to restricted free agency. Well, what is that? What does it mean? We start to get into a lot of the details of that. Then we're starting to go into some of the scouting and video stuff. Wes is going to take people through what are all the things that teams are paying attention to at each point in the cycle, and then into the details of what it means to be doing scouting, what you're looking for, things like that. And then, Beau, you're hitting the media side of that. So you're taking on the 101, you're giving the big picture perspective, and then we're bringing in one of our guests to be able to say from a hardcore media perspective, exactly what does it take. So those are the first couple of days. That's going to give you the foundation and the background. Then we start, and then also Seth Partnow, sorry, I missed one. And we'll do something about analytics, right? Here's how teams use analytics, the big picture there. Then we start to get into the more heavy duty, the practicums, the deep dives, scouting practicum. We're going to have going through games with scouts through video, where he's going to be able to look at sequences of plays, stop it, say, okay, here's what's happening here. Here's in terms of scouting. Here's what we're taking note of. Here's what we're putting down. Here's the things that are important to us. Then as we start to get into the other deep dives, the CBA deep dive, I'm going to give you an extra 3 hours of more in-depth commentary on specific aspects of the CBA, the media deep dive. Beau, I'll let you speak to that, but I know you've got a bunch of great stuff that you've got planned for that. And then I'm going to let Wes talk about the scouting video analytics deep dive, because there's some not only great content, but integrated content. Then every day, we're going to have some one-on-one interviews, guys like, Mike Breen, Neil O'Shea, the GM of the Portland Trailblazers. We're going to have a lot of great people who are just able to give us specific perspective, having been working in the league for so long, from all these different angles on their experience, what it takes from their perspective, advice that they have. And then at the end of the day, in the evening, is the whole networking session. We're going to be able to do one-on-one networking with industry people of your choice, where we can set you up with one-on-one sessions, networking with each other. We're talking about having like game watch parties, things like that. We're also talking about just office hours, Q&A with us as the staff. Here's my office, my door's open, come on in, ask me questions.
It's a lot, Wes, as you can do right there. One thing, Larry talked about Wes thinking of it from a team perspective. Yeah. And as I look at that schedule, I think of it from a media perspective as well, because getting guests is a little different this year than if they were at Summer League, because you're going to be in the midst of a playoff push. But the other thing I look at is Friday is not Thursday, and where I work, Thursday is the basketball show of record, which is inside the NBA. This is the basketball show of the business. So since we're not on Thursday and we are on Friday, that means students, there may be some folks from inside the NBA available for us to bring into this program. So that's the way I look at it. Wes, how about you?
Well, I'm glad that Larry was nice enough to start it at 11 a.m. Eastern time for us, because I got 7 to 10 a.m. with Frank Isola in the starting lineup every morning, and I got to get beat up by him before I come and join SBC. So, but Larry laid a lot of it out, but there truly is a great opportunity because of the timing and the opportunity to prepare and show the students what it is NBA front offices are going to be thinking about right now. We're going to get to go through the entire free agent list. We're going to get to be able to talk about how teams value free agents. We all love to sit here from the sidelines and second guess. Oh, they paid that guy too much. They didn't pay that guy enough. There's two values in the NBA. Larry knows this very well. There's relative value, and then there's absolute value. A player's absolute value may be $10 million, but his relative or market value may mean he's $15 million. And so the question GMs have to face every day is, are you willing to pay $5 million more to secure the player, or would you rather not make that decision and then go to option 2, 3, 4, or 5? But oftentimes, as we're sitting here trying to make that decision and negotiate that contract for that first player, guys 2, 3, and 4, options 2, 3, and 4 are coming off the board. So the pressure builds, and we've never been able to talk about these types of things before they've happened, and we're going to get to do that this year.
And Wes, we can dive into that sort of in real time as it's happening, right? You can say this team is looking at this in theory, and if this option goes away, then this happens, and we can take them through that, right?
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to get to build case studies this year. So Dave DeFore and Seth Partnow and I are preparing to be able to take through multiple teams, series of decisions that they've made in the past. And then what our plan is with the students, and not to give up too much too soon.
Please don't.
But we're gonna give a series of exercises of current teams and their decision-making scenarios that they're going to have to work through. And we're going to get to build those out for individual teams before they make the decisions. And one of the cool things is, we'll see how and what SBC looks like potentially down the road, even in October, when this is all going on in real time. But we're going to get to work through all of those decisions, the thought process, the strategy, even into the NBA draft this year because of the timing.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that this change means so much to us on the planning end. But after a moment of that scrambling, Larry and Wes, there was also this idea of, wait, this could be an opportunity too, right, Larry?
Oh, yeah. And first of all, I want to piggyback on something that Wes just said, right? Students, if you're thinking you're just going to sit down and watch something like you're watching the TV from your couch, I said you can do this from the comfort of your own couch. You're not a passive participant in this. You are an active participant in this process the entire week. And if you think that you're just going to not do that, think again. This is a great educational experience, and the best way to educate you is to involve you, and we're going to do that. So yes, to answer your question, Beau, there are things that are going to be different that we're going to take advantage of in the whole remote session, things that we wouldn't ordinarily do.
Tell us some of those critical advantages that they'll be able to experience in this virtual setting.
Well, one example is just what we were saying before with Wes, and what I said before with the whole. We're not at games, but because we're not at the games and going to that specific summer league game at that particular point in time on that day, we have the entire history of the NBA at our disposal for content, right? You guys can bring in whatever you want to illustrate whatever point you want. Oh, here's something for the 1981, second round matchup between whoever was playing in the second round that year, and we can take advantage of that. We have the when we do one-on-one networking, it's not just a narrow point in time where we can do it. We could say you're set up with this person, whatever's mutually convenient to the two of you. We can do video on demand. So it's not you're an active participant and you got to get everything in that one classroom at that one point in time. You now have the ability to go back to that. Let's say that you're on the other side of the world and you didn't feel like sitting through it live at 3 a.m., but you want to get it when you wake up. You can do that. And you can come back to it again if you want to refresh some of the points that were made. So I think that the whole remote setting opens up great possibility. And plus guests, right? Are you in Vegas? Is your team playing? Can you be here at this specific point in time in this room at this moment when something else is going on? Or are you just available to hop on a Zoom session or whatever platform we're using, hop on a session with us? So we're not, I think, hindered by the fact that we're not all in Vegas at once. I think that even though the league is happening at that point in time and they're in Orlando, I think that opens up the world for us to be able to bring people in.
Yeah, I think so too, Wes. I know that I've actually sat with games with you and watched some players before in an in-person setting. Never done it in a film setting before. how's that work? And tell me some of the advantages of that experience.
Well, the great thing about video is you get to rewind.
True.
Because what we're always trying to do is we're trying to figure out the decision making or why players made the decisions they made, and oftentimes we disagree, and we'll disagree on all sorts of elements of players. But the great thing about videos, we get to go back and say, okay, why do you think what you think? Okay, this is what I think. We both need to be open-minded. If you continue to watch and study and rewind and explain why you see what you see, typically you're able to get to better decisions. And one of the things that's also unique about this year is this is going to be actually the way the NBA works. Most of the NBA is done on our cell phones, right?
True.
Everything is done. The NBA draft is a big, giant conference call. Trade deadline, it's everyone's remote. You're huddled with your team. Our team will be here on the screen together, but everybody else is in different places. So we're going to get to simulate some of these real life NBA moments through exercises that we'll be able to pull together. And there's another really important thing, Beau, I got to mention. We haven't got to it yet. One of the hardest things an NBA executive does is hires their staff and builds their staff. And there have been I don't know the number. I should know the number, I guess. I can't tell you how many times we've had success stories coming out of SBC working straight into NBA front offices. Kalita Taylor is going to get a job. She's been a student before. She's worked. She is a total rock star, and she deserves an opportunity in the NBA. And everybody that I talk to in the NBA, I say the name Kalita Taylor. Jeff Siegel, early bird rights. I do the same thing. I'm telling everybody I know how good Jeff Siegel is because of the work he's done with early bird rights that started at SBC that's going to eventually land him in an NBA front office because of what we've done here.
Yeah, well, let's
go ahead, Larry.
Thanks. I just love piggybacking on Wes. Not only in the basketball ops side, but in, one of the reasons that we've always brought in media, social media, broadcasting, things like that is because that's where jobs are, right? So there's other success stories. Simon Sheridan Gordon is a great example, who's now working for the league office and their social media team. There's several stories like that. Because we're not just aiming you, okay, I'm going to be it's GM or bust, because there's only 30 jobs for a GM at any point in time, and Wes is higher on the pecking order than you are for whatever the next job comes up is. So it's going to take you some time to get there. What job are you going to get your foot in the door? What's the job after that? And the one after that to work your way up? Do you start in basketball ops? Do you start in scouting? Do you start on the media side, social media, as an agent, whatever? This is all one big funnel that leads to your ultimate goal. It's not a narrow path to get there. It's a wide path, and we're trying to show you the diversity of jobs that are out there and how to get your foot in the door, whichever path you choose.
Yeah, and one of the things is this ends up working both ways, because one of our students from last year, Reed Wallach, ended up getting a job working with the video replay and the referees. And so when I would have a question on the highlights at the NBA, all of a sudden I'm on the phone with Reed. Hey, what's going on here? So yeah, we end up carrying on this relationship. You work in basketball, we work in basketball, and this goes forward. We stick with you guys, and frankly, you'll end up sticking with us too. And that's one thing we pride ourselves on.
It's my nefarious plan, actually. I'm building my empire.
That's right. That's right. And the reality is, for all of those watching this who may not know, this is just normal life. The most impressive students, Larry's going to talk about them. Beau, you're going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about them. We're going to talk to Albert Hall at Hall Pass Media about them. We're going to talk to Warren Legary, one of the super agents in all of sport. And we're going to have an opportunity to share those names. And that's what we've done. And sure enough, the best bubble up, and we all share those names, and we share those names across the NBA. And there will be opportunities. You can guarantee it. It's just like the second round of the NBA draft. Every year, what do we do in the NBA draft, right? We say, oh, the draft is so good. Oh, they're second round. Everybody's throwing away second-round picks. And then what happens? 2 or 3 players. You got Malcolm Brogdon and you got Draymond Green. That is essentially what's going to happen every single year out of SBC.
Let me mention VSL Talent too, because this is a great service run by Hall Pass Media. Hall Pass being one of the agencies who puts on the Summer League. The Summer League interns, people from Sports Business Classroom, including the virtual session, have their opportunity to get their names in on VSL Talent. Think of it like LinkedIn, but specific to the NBA. Right?
Yeah, it's like premium LinkedIn. It's premium
exactly.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, this is the premium plan, and you get it by being in the SBC virtual class, which means that you get your profile in there. You know, NBA executives browse this thing. They're going to call up Albert and say, I need 5 candidates for this type of thing. And Albert is going to go through and say, okay, this one, this one, this one. This is how we connect people. And it's a great service that they put on. And SBC is connected to that.
I want to touch on one other thing real quick is that, look, we've all been living in this world that's a bit different now. We've all been socially distant. This is a chance for like-minded, passionate people to all get together and share an experience together. We're all going to be wanting to have this exchange. I feel like, we're hearing from students that are wanting, they're getting ready to go back to whatever college becomes. And you jump off just before that with something like this, where you get together with people that are passionate about getting jobs in the world of basketball. And look, we've sold this thing. We've told you why it's going to be really special. Larry, I think we need to tell them how to get involved.
Absolutely. And first of all, okay, Sports Business Classroom in a normal year in Las Vegas. I understand that not everybody who wants to go there can go there. It's just because of the setting and what it costs us and what we have to do to put it on. It's expensive. You have to come to Las Vegas. You have to dedicate, that week 24 hours a day. You're in Vegas. So it's like, okay, you got to worry about if you have kids, childcare, everything else. Not everybody can do it just for those reasons. But this year, there's almost no excuse because we're doing it virtually. You don't have to travel. You don't have to leave. And it's at a $6.99 price point. This is very, very much more affordable than normal SBC, which means, and in addition to all the other perks that we give you, this is the year, if you're even on the fence, get in it, see what this is all about, experience it. And we're also making it so that it doesn't impede on the SBC Vegas. So this year, you're probably going to want to come next year in Las Vegas, where we immerse you in the Summer League. If you are interested, it's going to be August 10th through 14th. So it's coming up here pretty quickly. You need to go to sportsbusinessclassroom.com. There's a link right there, or /virtual-conference. The info page is the first part of the registration page. You can start the process right there.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this year. Some of the names that we've got coming in the media program alone, we've got Mark Jones from ESPN, who can teach you how to research and do play-by-play or studio hosting. Like I said, it's a Friday, so Inside the NBA is off that day. Who knows what that might mean? I'm just so excited about what we're putting together right now, guys. And Wes, since we've got you here, and what are we, just under 2 weeks from the resumption of NBA basketball. I'm used to watching NBA basketball like in certain rhythms of the season. I start looking at teams that who's really good by Christmas, who's performing well by Christmas. This is going to be an entirely different animal. So what are you looking for as the teams come back and restart? And how are you going to be able to grade who's doing well, who's not doing well?
Well, first we got to get to July 30th and get to these games, which it looks like we're going to do. The NBA's done just a remarkable job creating this environment, and the amount of work that has gone on behind the scenes to get us to Orlando is nothing short of amazing. So first we got to get to these games on July 30th. And then, of course, we got the seeding games that are going to lead us to the playoffs. But one of the elements here that's most interesting is who's going to be available. Because of all that's going on, because of COVID, because of injuries, a short ramp-up period, we know the best teams to this point, but this is a new season. It's a shortened season. So it's going to be really interesting to see who's available to play and who benefits from playing on a neutral site.
Yeah, you're looking at the teams right there that are involved. It's 22 teams invited down to Orlando. We saw the news on Zion yesterday leaving, but it's like you said, Wes, it could change on a dime. For me, I think depth is going to be critical in this thing because it could be more injuries. You could have, unfortunate positive tests. I don't know that. I'm looking at depth as a critical factor.
I would agree. Depth is going to be valuable, but I don't know that it's going to be more valuable than you're having your best players healthy and available to play. Like the Houston Rockets, for instance. We know James Harden recently got to Orlando, and we know Russell Westbrook tested positive for COVID-19. So, of course, our focus is on we have to get Russell Westbrook healthy. We hope he's okay. We hope his family's okay. But the question becomes, when can he join the team? And
Sure.
and the question is, that Houston team, with where they sit right now in the Western Conference, it's going to be really difficult to be playing your best basketball if you don't have your entire group together. That's why I look to the Lakers and the Clippers, who largely seem like they have their teams intact, the two best teams in the West. Milwaukee is a team that we heard today. Eric Bledsoe tested positive for COVID-19. Yep. He's still not with the team. So I really think, and this is part of what the NBA has done, they've built this plan so players can test in their market, so they know who has time to recover. And so now it's about getting us to July 30th. And there's some teams like Milwaukee that have an advantage because they're going to most likely advance through that first round, either Washington or Brooklyn. And they have to be playing their best in the second round. There's other teams that need to be playing their best as of July 30th. And a lot of that's going to come down to who do you have available.
I want to take you back to that comment that you had, just because a lot of this depends on how players utilized all this time off. This is maybe something for the first time in their life. They weren't really touching a basketball. And people were making the great point, right? They weren't going to the team facility. And if they're in their NBA city in a rented, condo, they may not have had the chance to play basketball at all during that time. How does that affect the different players differently, right? Also in terms of age, previous injuries, even if you had like a Rudy Gobert, you tested positive. I don't know if he was ever symptomatic at all, but if any players were symptomatic, this is a thing. Even if it doesn't cause the devastating damage, it still affects people. And I don't know what the long-term effects that people are going to be feeling, even coming back to the league today. So how teams come back and how they gel, I think is going to be huge. Are people really spending a lot of time getting back into shape, getting back into rhythm, or are they just hitting the ground running?
Well, I saw some video of Ben Simmons the other day shooting, and it looked more like a set shot to me. But then I thought to myself, am I analyzing this too much, or did Ben Simmons spend a lot of time working on his shooting? This is something we're going to find out in time. Obviously, if people develop some individual skills and use their time wisely, I don't know, but there's going to be some stuff. There's going to be some storylines involved in individual skill development, or if people didn't do the work that they needed to do during the time off.
Conditioning, to Larry's point, conditioning, skill development, who had access to a facility, who didn't have access to a facility. And this is a completely new year. We don't even know who's potentially available. It's hard because we like to link playoff success and to what teams did in the regular season. Well, you can't do that with this. It's a neutral site. There is no home. There is no road. You're talking Ben Simmons. Philly is 29-2 at home. They're 10-24 on the road. How are they going to be in a neutral site? There's so many things. You could argue that this is going to favor the best offensive players, but then you could also like logically get your head around this is going to favor the best defensive teams because the offenses are going to take a hit. We don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see it play out.
Yeah, all we know is that whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and then everybody's got to scramble to prove why they were right all along.
To fill your argument, right?
That's right. But we're going to get to do it and watch and have these conversations at SBC. This is going to be what's cool. Games are going to be going on. We're going to have like some sort of rule about your cell phone. You can't have NBA, NBA.com or the NBA app on because we're going to have, we're going to have students reacting to what's going on live as SBC is like, as we're teaching and going through SBC. So I say that kind of jokingly, but it's also the truth.
There's some truth. Yeah.
We need the ticker at the bottom, just saying what's happening in the league.
Right.
Creating more work now, Larry. You're just creating more work. Larry, I was thinking about this as we were setting up the show, and I know you're a specialist in the salary cap and the CBA and everything, and I thought, are there different, assuming, and Wes pointed out it's a big assumption, if this season goes to conclusion, are there different paths to which this could impact the CBA? Is there like a great way that this season finishes, a medium path and a poor path, or is it one straight idea?
Oh, I think that this year, all we're talking about doing is controlling the bleeding, right? This is going to be look at how many games we're missing. Look at what kinds of revenue we're missing, right? The league and the teams, up or down, the league and the teams split that roughly evenly. So this year, it's just about controlling, let's finish the season. Let's control the losses as much as we can. The next year is going to be its own year. So there's two questions there, right? First of all, the salary cap in a normal year is based on not the revenues that happened last year, really. It's based on the projections for the revenues for next year. Now, in a normal year, they just base that on what happened last year. This year, they can't do that for obvious reasons, but they'll come up with a way of doing it. They'll figure out what the revenues are going to be. So it could be a normal salary cap year if we're back to normal. Right? If the 2020-2021 season is able to start on time, or at least a reasonable semblance of it, is able to start on time, be held on time, and draw the same revenues, then 2019-2020 would, in retrospect, just be a blip to the NBA and just one anomalous season. And then we're back to normal. We're pretty much back to normal. If anything out in the world really affects what's going to happen next year, then we're going to start to see some changes. And if we take advantage of opportunities, let's say we want to start the season later, have fewer games moving forward, those are things that could affect what they're doing moving forward as well.
Yeah, in this world of COVID-19, we all end up with too much time. And one of the things I was thinking about, Wes, with teams signing these younger players and the rosters expanding and the possibility of injuries, positive tests, family emergencies, anything, do you think that this could be an opportunity for some young players, maybe without as much notoriety, to have an opportunity to prove themselves on a pretty big stage this year?
Absolutely. And it's also an opportunity because there's not much else going on. So we're going to be watching these games because there's normal programming that we would be having during competing with the NBA season. We're not going to have. So without question, you're going to see players playing larger roles in meaningful games, much like NBA Summer League has been in the past. But this year we're going to get to see it in real life with NBA roster players, and a lot of two-way players are going to get more NBA opportunity than they probably ever have before.
Yeah, and I wonder about the players that aren't in this 22-team group. Are they going to have an opportunity to prove themselves? We talk about, we're going to be in advance of free agency at SBC this year. I guess we'll be able to take some notes. This guy's making a name for himself. This guy's got an opportunity. Is that fair, Wes?
Absolutely. I mean, we see it every year in the NBA playoffs, right? The playoffs lead up to it, and we focus more intently there. But now we're going to get to do that in a more centralized, more focused fashion. One thing that happens in the end of the NBA regular season, especially in front offices, you're working on so many things at the same time. You're strategically planning for your free agency. You're working on your draft prep. You're trying to manage your NBA season. You're trying to build for the playoffs. Well, right now, all those things are happening, but there's been a huge delay. And we still don't have some of the answers to those questions, and everyone's going to be in the same location in Orlando. So there's absolutely a better opportunity for us to dig in, focus, watch these players, and that will, no question, inform how teams make decisions at the beginning of free agency in October.
And you'll get to learn about that as a student. You'll get to learn in real time what we're thinking, what experts are thinking. We'll be able to bring in guests who will talk about this stuff. And it's going to be Larry and Wes, in my mind. One of the fun challenges at SBC in person is bringing in guests and who's coming in, when they're coming in. This is going to be an opportunity to bring in some guests that are in the middle of a pretty big moment for their season and perhaps for their franchise, because there are franchises that could be making a push for the playoffs, making a push to make a deep run right here at SBC, and we could be talking to the people that are instrumental in that opportunity.
Yes, and we're SBC in a normal year. We bring in the cream of the crop guests. We bring in team owners. We brought in the commissioner. We bring in general managers. We bring in head coaches. All these guys have been valuable contributors to what we've done in the project. They'll sit down with us for an hour. They'll talk about everything. They'll answer questions. But it's in the setting of Summer League. Now we're in the setting of the actual league going on. And that's a whole different thing. What they're going to be able to bring to the table in a setting like this is going to be great. Just another advantage, not of being remote, but like Wes keeps saying, of the timing, of the situation that we're in while SBC is going on.
It's once in a lifetime. It's absolutely once in a lifetime. We're going to start announcing confirmed guests next week for SBC. You're going to want to follow at Sports Biz Classroom on Twitter, and get over to sportsbusinessclassroom.com to learn where you can keep up with all of this stuff. What I think is going to be interesting is students are going to get to talk to people who are inside that bubble. They're going to be people inside that bubble. One of the fascinating things, I've been watching JaVale McGee's vlog on YouTube. You can go to JaVale McGee and he takes you right through the process of, hey, I'm with the Lakers. And you don't think about these little things like he's hugging his daughter and he's going away for 3.5 months potentially. You don't think about that, but it's a real thing these guys are going through, and you'll get to talk to people who are inside the bubble. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And not only are you in that situation leaving, where you're going to be away from your family for those 3 months, you're leaving your family in not the best of situations. There is a global pandemic going on.
Sure.
That is a tough decision for people. And I know that some people have opted the other way and just say it's just not worth doing. And I understand that, but it plays both ways, right?
Yep. We're offering a safe learning environment this year at Sports Business
That's
Classroom,
true.
and it is a learning environment. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to meet a lot of people. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity. So, guys, I can't thank you enough for joining me this week as we announce, again, Sports Business Classroom Virtual Conference, August 10th through August 14th. Registration is now open. You see the website at the bottom there. I don't need to read it to you. But what I want to tell you is get involved now. We're planning something big, and you'll learn all about our guests coming next year. Next week, we're going to have a Women in Sports show. This is an important issue in this moment, too. We've got so many big issues in the world right now, and we're going to try to tackle all of them, including that one next week. So, Larry, thank you. Wes, thank you. We'll see you guys soon virtually, and I'm looking forward to SBC this year, fellas.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Wes.
And a quick reminder before we let you go, everyone, tune in to all of our Hall Pass Media Network shows. It's wonderful lineup we've got. It's the Basketball Jones, Off Court Connection, the Pickup Game with Seth Greenberg, our Sports Business Classroom web show. The network is growing. Be a part of the Hall Pass Network. Go to hallpassnetwork.com/web-shows and join us. And one more time, thanks for watching, everybody.